Hi, this is Betty Traciak from kittystamp.blogspot.com, and today I have a tutorial to show you how to use a rubber stamp to heat emboss on a piece of fabric. Materials that you need for this project will be a rubber stamp, fabric. You can use either a minky fabric or velvet, a press cloth, water, and an iron. When doing this project, look for a stamp that has a fairly bold design. So something like leaves would work well, something like this. The most detailed that I have gotten that I found that works well is a stamp like this. This, if you notice, everything is fairly well delineated. There's not a lot of overlap in this stamp. The fabrics that you use for this need to be 100% polyester. So that can be a minky fabric or a velvet. Minky fabric is 100% polyester and it has a nap to it. So if you pet it in this direction, it lies flat. If you go in this direction, you go against the grain and it kind of ruffles it up. So before you stamp, you want to get the nap lying so that it's all down, and you want to consider whether or not you want the nap to go in this direction or this direction while you're doing your stamping. The fabric that you use for the press cloth is any sort of scrap fabric. That just needs to be big enough that when it's unfolded it will completely cover the fabric. So begin by dampening that with water and squeeze out any excess. Set that aside for a second. And take the stamp and have that face up and center the fabric on top of the stamp and put the pressed cloth on top. I have my iron already preheated. This is set to a cotton linen, so it is fairly hot. And what I'm going to do is just press on the top, and I want the steam to go into the fabric. And so I'm lifting up the iron, moving it over as opposed to sliding the iron, making sure that all of the areas are covered. I want to cover it, get it nice and hot, but I don't want to leave it on so long that I burn the fabric. And you can see that you can see the impression a little bit through the fabric. I'm going to let this sit for just a second while that cools off. And then when I remove it, that impression is in the fabric. And I would let this sit a little bit longer before touching that, but here's a piece that I have done earlier, and you can see that you can brush it both directions and the impression still stays in the fabric. I also have done this on velvet. Now this is black, so you're not really going to be able to see this. I'll try to take a picture of this later. I used this more detailed stamp, and I really like how this image turned out on there. It's exactly the same process using velvet. Just make sure when you do so that you're not touching any of the edges, because that definitely will leave any impression from the iron on the edges, that wherever you touch the iron you're going to get a spot. Here's the project that I made using the finished piece of stamped minky. I mounted it on a piece of cardstock, and to do that I used sticky strip, which I put in a rectangle directly onto the cardstock, a couple pieces down the center, and then just gently laid the minky on top and straightened that out. Then I made a frame just by cutting a rectangle out of the center and added little window pane strips at the back of the rectangle and added the windowsill, which is just a strip of paper, and I hand cut these angles. Then I took that frame and mounted that on top using Tombow adhesive. That seemed to work really well. I also used Tombow to glue down the flowers, and just a little mini glue dot to pop up the kitten.